Coming to you live from Westlake, Texas. Kevin's joining us from Ithaca, New York. Little different stomping grounds, and we're been a morning episode this week. We have a great slate. Usually, we just preview the five best games. I think this week we got 7 or 8 on there. Huge games this week with playoff implications on the line. Some potential elimination games for some teams as well. Then, as always, throw in a little touchdown parlay, dog of the day, lock of the week, but. Starting tonight on Thursday, we've got a great game with the Rams and Seahawks. We got college football playoff on Friday. We got college football playoff on Saturday, 2 NFL games Saturday, great NFL slate on Sunday, and then even a pretty good Monday night game as well. So starting tonight, a really nice stretch of football as we lead into Christmas. Bowl games are going on too. Exciting time in the football world. It's always sad when it gets to December, but the games just mean a little bit more this time of year. So welcome back, Kev. How are we?
Yeah, great. Super looking forward to this whole weekend. Like you were kind of saying, great weekend of football. All these games that we're going to talk about, awesome games, fun matchups, and just huge playoff implications.
Yeah, so tonight we started off with the 11-3 Rams at the 11-3 Seahawks, 8:15 kick on Thursday Night Football, Amazon Prime. Rams 1.5 point favorite here, over under 44.5. The first time these two teams met up earlier this season, the Rams beat up on this Seahawks team, and Sam Darnold definitely had the worst game of the season last year. If you remember, Sam Darnold against the Rams too really struggled. So this defensive staff kind of has his number. Sean McVay and this Rams team have kind of owned Sam Darnold over the past couple years. But the Seahawks control their own destiny. They win this game and they against the Rams, and they win out. They'll be not only the NFC West champion, but also the number one seed. The Rams, as well as we know, sitting there in first place in the NFC right now. They take care of business these last few weeks. They win the NFC West and the one seed. So a lot on the line in this game. 49ers still have a chance. They need a little bit more help to win the NFC West, but I think the winner of this game is definitely in the driver's seat for that NFC West title and the one seed. So one of the biggest games of the season, Kev. Who do you got in this one?
I got the Rams winning by a field goal, 23-20. So Rams cover 1.5 under 44.5. This game looks like there might be some weather involved in Seattle, rainy. It's going to be chilly there. Just maybe a sloppy game because of that. And then the Rams beat the Seahawks earlier this season, as you touched on. And then in that game, Sam Darnold just did not play well. Turned the ball over 4 times in that game, but it was still a close game. Both of these teams are super well rounded. Both teams rank in the top 5 in points per game on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. I do think the Rams rely a little bit more on their offense, while the Seahawks probably rely a little bit more on their defense. But I like the Rams offense too much not to pick them here. In 2 consecutive weeks now, they've gone over 500 yards and 40 points. They're one of the league's top rushing teams. Stafford looks like he's a lock for MVP this year. I think he's at minus 300 last time I looked. And then the Devontae Adams injury, I think, is obviously a big loss, but I think McVay is so good at changing his personnel and scheme that I think they can finish the regular season strong, even without him, get him ready for the playoffs. But it will be tough sledding for the Rams offense, as the Seahawks defense is elite at all 3 levels, and they are in the conversation as one of the top defenses in the league, probably right there behind the Texans. And then I do like Sam Darnold in the Seahawks offense, but I do find it hard to completely trust them. So I'm going with the Rams here on the road.
Yeah, I think you touched on it best there at the end. I just simply trust the Rams and Matt Stafford more. I talked about it last week, and that was a really fun, entertaining, high-scoring game. Rams kind of had to come back, but if you're making me take a team to win the Super Bowl right now, I don't think it's a shocking thing to say the Rams, but I just put them in a category of their own just because of their consistency on a week-to-week basis and the trust. Like the Seahawks, when they've looked really good, at points this year, you can make an argument that they're the best team in the NFL when they're playing at their best with the way Sam Darnold can play when he's on his game. JSN, obviously, a balanced rushing attack. And then that defense is always flying around. They can be really good, but, do you trust Sam Darnold here in a big spot? He's got a huge opportunity tonight to kind of rewrite the narrative on his career in these big games. As we know, really struggled early on with the Jets and the Panthers, but really revitalized his career last year with the Vikings and doing it again this year and a year with the Seahawks, where he's a legitimately good quarterback. But is he just going to be top 10 to 12 quarterback, or can he be like a top six, top eight quarterback in this league. And performances, games like tonight kind of dictate that and his ceiling going forward. But a situation where I'm going to take the team I trust more, even on the road in this spot on a short week. I like the Rams to go to Seattle and win this one 24-21. So I'll go Rams -1.5 over 44.5. I'm just going to ride with Stafford and McVay over McDonald and Sam Darnold at the end of the day. It's keeping it as simple as that. All right, we go to Saturday now. Great game on Saturday night. College football playoff all day, right into Eagles, Commanders at like five or six. I forget what time they kick off exactly. And then you got Packers, Bears. So an awesome one. The winner of this game, I think probably wins the NFC North. It's going to be hard for the Lions to do it. But the winner of this game, at least in the driver's seat, Packers 9-4-1 at the 10-4 Bears, 8:20 kick on Fox. Packers though 1.5-point favorite still, over under 46.5. Packers won the first game at Lambeau, but Micah Parsons now tore ACL, out for the season. Bears got something to play for, maybe the biggest game at Soldier Field in over a decade.
Yeah, I'm going with the Bears winning this one at home 24-20. So the Bears +1.5, under 46.5. I know the Packers are favored in this game, but I actually didn't think very hard about this game. I think it is going to be the Bears. The Packers lost last week, I think could be devastating on so many levels with the injuries, obviously losing a close, hard-fought game to the Broncos. This game is also in Chicago, and the Packers are only 2-5 against the spread on the road this season, while just 6-8 against the spread overall. I thought the Bears played the Packers well a few weeks ago in Lambeau. They had a chance late, and Caleb ended up throwing just an absolutely horrible pick. He had a man wide open for what would have been the game-tying TD, but he just completely underthrew him. I think the Bears can play well again this week, rely on their run, and then just end up not making that back-breaking mistake. The Packers now have just a ton of injuries, and I personally have never been super high on Jordan Love, so I like the Bears here at home.
Yeah, looking at the division odds right now, it's as close as it can get. Packers +100 to win the North, Bears +105 to win the North. So those odds will probably swing pretty heavily for whoever wins this game. But I really like this Bears team. The more the season's gone on, I know that they've dropped a couple games and they've also played a weaker schedule, I think, an inferior schedule that's helped them get to this 10-4. But I think Caleb Williams has shown a ton of growth this year. I think Ben Johnson has been an awesome first-year head coach. You haven't really noticed that he's a rookie. The way that they can run the ball, like that throw that Caleb made it in back of the end zone last week to DJ Moore. Hopefully they're able to get Roma Dunze back in the lineup too. But the tight end duo with Loveland and Kmet, and the defense is a very opportunistic defense that causes a lot of turnover. It's not the best defense in the league. They do give up a lot of points, but they turn the football over. And when you have that high-powered, explosive offense like the Bears do, and you're able to give them more chances, more opportunities with the ball, you're going to have a chance at every day, at every game. And if this Bears team can find a way to get like the 2 seed in the NFC, and people got to come to Soldier Field in January, potentially and go through Chicago to make it to the Super Bowl. That's not going to be an ideal scenario for teams that struggle to play in the cold, obviously, but also with the Bears and their ability to win in the cold. I think Caleb Williams has shown the weather hasn't really bothered him, and with that running game, that's going to be something that's tough to stop. So I think this Bears team is low-key a Super Bowl contender here out of the NFC. I think I would actually even trust them more over the Packers. I know I come on here pretty much every week and say how I don't trust Jordan Love, but you take the star dynamic pass rusher off of that unit too, and Micah Parsons, that's a huge blow, and something that I think separates the good teams from the great teams. Do you have that elite pass rusher that you can go to in the fourth quarter to get a big stop on third down, and the Packers lose that? I think that's something that we see in this game, and the Bears find a way to win 27-23 at home. So I really like the Bears plus that 1.5, obviously, and the over of 46.5 too. And the Bears put themselves in the driver's seat to win the NFC North. All right, we go to Sunday now. NFC South, the ugly division this year, but sets up for a really awesome and meaningful game here. Winner of this one puts themselves once again in the driver's seat for that NFC South crown. The Bucs at 7-7. Never know what team is showing up with them. Obviously, lose to the Falcons last week. Beginning of the year, they looked awesome, and they've kind of battled some injuries throughout the season. But they're pretty healthy now, and they're not playing their best football. They'll go to Carolina, who's 7-7 as well. They've been a crazy team this year too, playing really well against some really good teams, then struggling against some bad teams. What Panthers team shows up this week? 1 o'clock kick on Fox. Bucks are a 3-point favorite. Over under is 45.5.
Yeah, these two teams face off two times in the next three games, and if one of the teams is able to sweep the series, they'll undoubtedly win the division. But with that being said, neither team really gives you any confidence that they can do that. Both teams have been wildly inconsistent, hence they're both 7-7. So I'm just going to go with the proven commodity here. The Bucks have won five in a row against Bryce Young since he was drafted. The Bucks have also won the past four NFC South titles. The Panthers are also an NFL worst 0-12 as the betting favorite since 2021, which is kind of shocking. And the Bucks defense is also not playing super well, which is a big concern of mine and another shocking thing for a top Bulls coach team. But I'm not trying Bryce Young to completely take advantage of the poor Bucks defense here. I think the return of Mike Evans, Bucky Irvin, and Jalen McMillan has been huge for the Bucks offense. Baker hasn't played great since injuring his shoulder, but I think he can do enough here to get a big division win. So I'm going Bucks 23, Panthers 19, Bucks -3, under 45.5.
Yeah, despite both teams being 7-7, Vegas still loves the Bucks to win the division, and we say that here with them being a road favorite. But the Bucks are -400 to win the South, Panthers +300. But as you touched on, playing each other twice in the next 3 weeks, the Panthers definitely control their own destiny here. Like you touched on too, they've been really good as a dog, and as a favorite, they've really struggled. So maybe it's a spot where they get up and they make some noise and pull off an upset here. I can't trust either of these teams really. It's probably the biggest coin flip game out of this bunch for me. So I'm just going to go with the Bucks to win, but I will take the Panthers to cover. I think this is low key an entertaining game. Like the Bucks play some pretty wild games sometimes, and the Panthers too. We touched on. We never know what Panthers team is going to show up, but when the good version of the Panthers shows up and Bryce Young is throwing for 300 yards and Rico's running all over and Tet's making crazy catches, it's a pretty entertaining Panthers team to watch. So I think this is going to be one of the funner games this weekend. But I'm just going to ride with the Bucks to win, take the Panthers to cover that +3. And as the stats you were touched on, wouldn't be surprised to see them at all pull off this upset as a home dog in this spot. But I'm just going to still trust Baker Mayfield a little bit more over Bryce Young at this stage of the season. So give me Bucks 27, Panthers 26, Panthers +3, and really like that over 45.5. I think we see some points there. All right. I think at the beginning of the season, no one would have expected this would be such a big game, seeding wise and everything in the AFC. But Jags at 10-4, awesome season from them. They go to Denver to play the 12-2 Broncos, who continue to just rack up victories. Impressive win at home over the Packers last week. 4:05 kick on Fox. Broncos 3-point favorite. Over under is 45.5.
Yeah, so I'm going Broncos 20, Jags 19, Jags +3, under 45.5. When I started writing and researching for this game, I was planning to pick the Jags to get the upset win here. Then I just saw some things I couldn't ignore. We've heard a lot about how good Trevor Lawrence has been playing this year, and he had a super impressive game last week where he had 6 total TDs, but that was against the Jets. This year, he is not even completing 60% of his passes. He's only averaging 7 yards of completion and has 23 TDs to go along with 11 picks. 5 of those TDs came last week, like I said, against the Jets. On a podcast earlier this week, I heard Matt Ryan talking about, and he said 2 of the biggest numbers he looks at when evaluating quarterbacks is their completion percentage being in the high 60s and a yards per completion being in the 9s. As I was looking at it, Trevor is well below both. The Jags defense is good, and I think they can keep them in the game against Bo Nix, who doesn't also have super great numbers. They're actually somewhat comparable to Trevor Lawrence's, but ultimately I think this game is in Mile High, and the Broncos defense is just elite. I think they can get to Trevor Lawrence, force some turnovers, and give the Broncos a huge win, as it looks like they will probably end up being the 1 seed there in the AFC.
Yeah, you're kind of talking down on Trevor there. I think he's been awesome. I think he should be, if there was like a most improved player award in the NFL, I think he should be kind of in that mix. Liam Cohen has done wonders, I think, with him this year. And Lawrence, I think when we've seen him like at his best, sure, he's been like a top 10 worthy quarterback in the league, but he's really been inconsistent these last few years. He really picked up his game this year. And I'm excited to see kind of the future for him because it's not that long ago that he was really hyped up as the next Andrew Luck, the next Peyton Manning. And I don't think he's delivered on that for sure, but he's had an awesome season this year. Kind of just wanted to give him his flowers. But it's a scenario too, Kev, where I'm going to go back to what we talked about in the last game. It's a coin flip. I could see the Jags definitely going to the Broncos. Broncos, despite being 12-2, I think you can still say are inconsistent because games like last week where they had to come back and have a pretty crazy second half. We've seen it a bunch this year. They played down to their competition, whether it was the Giants or the Jets, and they find ways to win in the fourth quarter. They're a resilient team, but how sustainable is that? They've done it over the course of 14 games to get to 12-2. But all right, let's play a playoff team in the Jags. Let's get to the playoffs and see, how that recipe lasts. And last week I came on here talking about I needed to see a big game from Bo Nix, and he did that. He delivered a bunch of points last week, over 300 passing yards, and had one of the best games of not just this season, but of his career so far. So starting to build some more trust with Bo Nix. With Sean Payton obviously calling the plays, you're always going to have a good chance. And with that defense too. So I'm going to go with the Broncos at home here. This is a really tough environment to go to. You get the Jags going from down south in the warm, cozy weather out to Denver in the cold, in the altitude. That's a tough trip to make. And the Jags, despite all their successes here, sitting there at 10-4. The Texans this week, I think, have the Raiders, and the Texans are 8-5. We could look or 9-5, excuse me. Yeah, we could look next week, and those two teams could be tied in the AFC South. So a huge game here for the Jags, but I just think that they fall up short in this game, and I like the Broncos to win it. But I will take the Jags to cover that 3. I'll go Broncos 23, Jags 21. So Jags +3 and go with the under of 45.5. All right, 2 more games on Sunday. Then we got the Monday night game as well. We got the Steelers at 8-6 at the Lions 8-6. 4:25 kick on CBS. Lions 7-point favorite. Over under 51.5. This game doesn't matter as much for the Steelers, but if they are able to win and the Ravens lose on Sunday night against the Patriots, I believe the Steelers actually clinched the division. Lions, if they lose this game, won't be making the playoffs, I think, if they fall to 8-7. So huge game for the Lions, a lot of importance there. 4:25 kick on CBS. And I think the spread kind of reflects that as well, with the Lions' need for a sense of urgency, as they're a 7-point favorite in this matchup. Over under is sitting there at 51.5.
Yeah, I'm going Lions winning relatively big, 31-23, Lions -7, over 51.5. The Lions are just going to be able to outscore most of their opponents. They lead the league in points per game and score more than a full touchdown per game than the Steelers. Neither team has a very good defense, so I think the Lions can bounce back in this game here. And then Detroit is 14-1 against the spread after a loss since mid-2022, almost a lock to win after a loss, or at least cover the spread. Aaron Rodgers and the offense looked really nice against the Dolphins last week, but that was against the Dolphins playing in the cold. This game's in a dome in Detroit. I think they have some nice drives and are able to score a few points, but I don't see them being able to nearly hang with Jared Goff and the Lions offense.
Yeah, when you look at the AFC North division odds right now, Steelers -130, Ravens are +105. When you look at the teams just to make the playoffs, pulling that up now. I don't have it in front of me, but I know this is it's an uphill kind of battle still for the Lions to win it. So it's a super must-win game for them. I don't think if they win this game that they're gonna have I'm still on life alert. I would guess you could say still have somewhat of a fighting chance, but this is the biggest game of the season for them. They need to win this one to give themselves some confidence. If they finish 10-7, they're gonna have a chance to, or excuse me, if they finish 11-6, they probably make it. If they finish 10-7, I think they might be out, which is pretty crazy to say. The Steelers have been looking good though. I feel like it was just 2 or 3 weeks ago, watching the broadcast, I forget who they were playing, but the announcer said that they haven't had a 20-yard passing play in like 2 months. And in that game, they went out and started slinging the ball down the field, and the passing game has kind of came alive since. I was watching Monday Night Football the other night, and Rodgers fit the ball into that really tight window against the Dolphins. DK broke a few tackles, stiff-armed a couple guys, and ran it in for a touchdown. That's something that they got to go to more. Just get DK the ball in space and let him make some plays. And Aaron Rodgers has really talked high about Kenny Gainwell over the past few weeks. He's been a nice addition, catching the ball out of the backfield. The Steelers' offense looks like it's starting to get into a little bit of a rhythm, and the defense is making some plays too. As we talked about multiple times this year, that's the highest paid defense in the entire NFL. They got to make some plays. But I do like the Lions to win this one. I just think just a little bit more of a sense of urgency. You got Steelers and Ravens still having to match up. That's probably going to be for the division. I feel like that would only be right in that scenario for those two teams to be battling out at the end of the season. But I like the Lions to keep their season alive here, win 30-20. So give me the Lions -7 and give me the under of 51.5 there. All right, Sunday Night Football, Patriots 11-3 at the 7-7 Ravens for 8:20 kick on Sunday Night Football. On NBC, Ravens 3-point favorite here. Over under is 48.5.
Yeah, I'm going Ravens 23, Pats 21. So Pats +3, under 48.5. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens got a huge win against the Bengals last. Lamar looked better, but the most impressive part was the Ravens defense shutting out the Bengals. The Patriots defense had some things exposed as well last week against a very good Bills offense. The Patriots defense has allowed 134 rushing yards a game in their last 4. So I'm hoping Lamar and Derrick Henry are able to get the run game going here. Last week, Derrick Henry was able to have 100 yards on just 11 carries, super efficient. Lamar didn't have to run the ball a ton last week as they shut out the Bengals. He hasn't been running a ton as of late. I think I saw a stat earlier today that in his last 6 games, he's under 7 rush attempts in every game. So I think he's still dealing with injuries, but maybe he's able to get back on track a little bit here against the Patriots defense, who's not super good against the run. And I know the Ravens offense hasn't looked great this whole year, but I still find it hard to believe that Lamar is not going to be able to string multiple good weeks in a row. And I think this game is very close, though, still, as the Pats are 8-3 against the spread in their last 11, and the Ravens are just 1-4 against the spread in their last 5. So I think the Patriots keep it close, but the Ravens end up winning this game and hand the Patriots their second loss in a row.
Yeah, I forget what the exact number was, if it's 14-0 or 15-0, but Lamar Jackson in the month of December is either 14-0 or 15-0. So it's hard to kind of pick against him in this one, especially in a must-win spot. But I'm actually going to go with the upset here. I think I went pretty chalk for most of my games this week. I'm going to go with the upset actually here with the Patriots going through the Ravens. I think this is a game where we learn a ton about the Patriots after blowing that big lead last week. What team shows up? We know it's a young team led by a young quarterback. Vrabel, obviously a really good coach, but we haven't seen this group, this collection of players really deal with much adversity. I think last year obviously was a different story, but you bring in Vrabel, a new regime, and Drake May in his second year with a bunch of different players from the draft and free agency impacting the squad this year. We haven't really seen this team deal with that much adversity. Let's see how they fare this week. I think we learn a lot about this team this week. And the Ravens, we talked about consistency a lot on the show. They just haven't been consistent, and they put together a good performance last week against a Bengals team that's down and out. But the Patriots, I think, just find a way to win this week. The Ravens in desperation mode, but the Patriots too, still playing for the AFC East. Like, Patriots lose this one, the Bills win this weekend. The door is wide open for the Bills to potentially get that AFC East still. So huge game for both squads. Ravens on the brink of kind of facing elimination. They're not going to get a wild card. They would have to win the AFC North to get in the playoffs. But I'm going to take the Patriots in a bounce-back effort here on the road outright. They've been really good this year from start to finish. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt after losing a tough game last week, and the Ravens have just been too up and down for me. I'm going to go Patriots 24, Ravens 20, so Pats +3, under 48.5. And final game of the week, Monday Night Football, to round out a great 4-day stretch of football here. 49ers at 10-4 go to the 8-6 Colts. 8:15 kick, Monday Night Football on ESPN. Niners 6-point favorite, over under 46.5. We get to see Phillip Rivers in the year of 2025 play on Monday Night Football. Pretty wild there.
Yeah, I'm going Niners winning pretty big, 30, Colts 17. Niners cover the 6, over 46.5. I think the Colts are just dead. I think it's over for them here. The Phillip Rivers story is super cool, but I didn't see anything really last week that would convince me he can go and beat one of the NFL's better teams. he didn't show a real ability to push the ball down the field. And I think the Niners defense is going to end up kind of crowding the line of scrimmage more than the Seahawks did. I think the Seahawks last week didn't completely know what to expect with him having not played in 5 years. So they were kind of just sitting back a little bit more. So I expect the Niners to be a little more on the offensive, on the defensive side of the ball. And then on their actual offensive side of the ball, Brock Purdy has started to look like himself recently. They still have Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. They're still elite. Ricky Pearsall is starting to emerge as a guy for them on the offensive side of the ball. I think this one was by far the easiest game of the week for me to pick. The Niners roll here, and if the Seahawks are able to beat the Rams, the Niners will be right there in the mix for the 1 seed in the NFC.
Yeah, pretty wild there. I think Kyle Shanahan should definitely be in the running for the winner of Coach of the Year this year. What he's done with that team, with the injuries they've suffered on both sides of the ball between Brock Purdy and Mac Jones back and forth at quarterback, defense missing a bunch of guys this year. That's been an awesome story. And if there's like an assistant coach of the year award as well, Robert Saleh for that banged up defense, how good they've played this year. I don't really like the 49ers. I haven't really liked Kyle Shanahan in that organization since them and the Eagles, I think, have become kind of rivals. But, give flowers where they're due. Kyle Shanahan deserves a lot of credit for what he's done this year. And that's going to be a dangerous team in the playoff, regardless if they're the 1 seed or not. So I like them to win this game. I'm excited because I was on a plane last week. I didn't really get to watch Phillip Rivers. I'm excited to actually sit down and watch him on Monday Night Football this week. Maybe the last time you get to sit and watch him in a standalone game ever. But I like the 49ers to win this game. I think the Colts are going to fight for Rivers. It's just a shame kind of the way their season's gone. We know they started out so hot. Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor looked like they were potentially going to be MVP, Offensive Player of the Year. That offense was setting records through the first few weeks, and it's really all gone downhill since. And it's been an unfortunate season. They lose this one. They're definitely out of the playoffs. If they find a way to pull off the upset, though, they still have some life. Plus 700 to make the playoffs, so minus 1,200 to miss. So pretty uphill climb. I think that's factoring in the likely result of them losing this week. But at home, Monday Night Football, Phillip Rivers, let's see if he has some magic. I think he has some, but probably only enough for the first 3 quarters, and the 49ers find a way to pull it out in the end. I'm going to go Niners 28, Colts 20. So Niners -6 and the over of 46.5. All right. Touchdown parlay time, one of the prime time games, and then one of the Sunday afternoon games for each of us. I'll start it off with my prime time pick. I'm going to go Josh Jacobs -130 on Saturday night versus the Bears. I think we see a lot of runs in that game, cold weather, windy weather. That's just an old school NFC North game. Josh Jacobs finds his way in on a 2 or 3 yard carry like we usually see every week.
Yeah, my primetime game, I'm going Thursday night tonight. Puka Nacua +110 against the Seahawks. Probably no Devontae in this game. I think Puka sees a lot more action.
My Sunday pick at 1, I will go Bucky Irving +125 versus the Panthers. Bucky, since coming back, has been really good. I'm excited to see hopefully next year he's fully healthy for a season, because I think he's got the ability to maybe lead the league like in rushing yards or combined yards from scrimmage. I think he's that dynamic and needs a little bit more love and attention as one of the top backs in the league. It was hard to do that this year with him being out of the lineup, but I'd like him to find the end zone in a must-win game there for the Buccaneers this weekend.
Yeah, my touchdown pick for the Sunday at 1 o'clock games, Devon Achane -190 against the Bengals. The Bengals defense is really bad. This game means nothing, and Achane's been kind of the lone bright spot for the Dolphins this year.
Yeah, the running back position has been revitalized in the NFL. We've seen so many guys have really good and impressive seasons this year. It's hard to make like a top 5 argument because you can throw probably 10 to 12 names in there. But we come in on that parlay at plus 1226. So $10 bet on that one pays 132, riding that this week. Looking at the cash at the window. Dog of the day, our favorite underdog of the week. I'm going to go Chargers +2.5 at the Cowboys. Listen, the Cowboys have a 1% chance to make the playoffs. They need to win their last 3 games. They need the Eagles to lose their last 3 games. Chargers still playing for seeding in the AFC. Probably not the division. I think they need the Broncos to lose out, and the Chargers would need to win out. But the Chargers +2.5 here. We talked ourselves into the Cowboys as being potentially dangerous. They've shown why they're the Cowboys over the last few weeks. So give me the Chargers +2.5. Like them to at least cover that, but I think they can win it outright.
Yeah, my dog of the day, I'm going Titans +3 against the Chiefs. We talked a lot about a lot of games this week. So this one's kind of one we weren't going to touch on because it's a meaningless game. I like the Titans to cover at home here. No Mahomes, no meaning other than the Titans just continuing to develop Cam. We'll see how the Chiefs respond to not having Mahomes, missing the playoffs for the first time in forever. And then even when they did have Mahomes, they weren't exactly blowing teams out. So I like the Titans +3.
Lock of the week, favorite bet of the week. I'm going to go Eagles -6.5 at Commanders. I think the Eagles found some swag, got some of their motion back last week, albeit against the Raiders, but still, that's a game that they needed to kind of get back on track. Commanders, kind of a team just in absolute, playing for nothing mode. Marcus Mariota getting the start, a lot of guys injured. I don't think they're going to play some of their top players and give some young guys a chance. They don't even really have a chance to play spoiler unless they were to beat the Eagles this week and then the final week of the season as well. So I like the Eagles to go out there and handle their business this week and win this game by 10 plus.
Yeah, my lock of the week, huge spread. Texans -14.5 against the Raiders. If the Raiders couldn't score last week against the Eagles, I have no idea how on earth they're going to score against the Texans in Houston. I think they're just probably definitely the worst team in the NFL. So I think the Texans can definitely end up covering more than 2 touchdowns here.
All right, that'll do it for NFL picks and preview week 16. We'll be back early next week before we have some Christmas games actually to break down and probably a bunch of more playoff scenarios for next weekend's game. So thank you everyone for tuning in this early. Please like, please subscribe, and we'll talk next week.